Hi, I'm Alicia Michelle, and as a trained and certified Christian mindset coach, I've helped hundreds of Christian women discover brain science-based mindset tools to help them grow closer to God and break free from anxiety, perfectionism, people-pleasing, and feeling like they're never enough. The Christian Mindset Coach is the award-winning podcast that shows you how to use simple brain science principles and biblical truth to renew your mind for lasting confidence, joy, and peace. I'm so glad you're here. Grab a cozy spot and let's get started. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Christian Mindset Coach with me, Alicia Michelle. I'm thrilled to be here in the podcast studio today. It's been a while, honestly. I bulk record a lot of these episodes, and it's been like 3 months since I've been here recording. And I know we've had a lot of great guest episodes up to this point. So if you have not seen all of those, I encourage you to check them out. They've been great conversations, and I've loved having them. But now I'm really kind of excited for what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks here. We are starting a new series that has to do with getting this refreshment in our mind, this soul care, basically, that we all need. It seems like about halfway through the year, a lot of us get to this point, especially as the school year is ending and just all the stress that we have kind of started to build up throughout the year. We're ready. We're ready for a summer break. And we used to have that when we were kids, but as adults, it's like no one tells you that that kind of goes away unless you intentionally make this time to rest and reflect when you feel this overwhelming need for some sort of replenishment in your life. So I am taking a stand right now here. I'll be sharing more about this in today's episode. For me personally, I definitely am in a season where I am looking to the Lord for rest and replenishment. And I've been taking some very active steps to do that for about the past month now. And it's been incredible. So I'm going to be sharing some of that today. But I also wanted to just take the next 4 weeks on the podcast for us, for you to stop and to really determine, is where I'm at right now the pace and the place that I want to keep going? So we're going to be asking some very specific questions around where you're at, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling burnout. I know that there are a lot of women who are feeling this right now. Just personally in my own circle of friends, in my church, the women I work with online, I hear it everywhere. It is everywhere. And if there's one thing in this modern world that we have not learned yet quite as technology has caught up with us and all of the different ways we are stimulated through the day, so to speak, we need to learn this skill of recognizing when we feel completely exhausted and burnout and what to do about it, to have the courage to step into it. So today, let's talk about this idea of feeling like a human doing versus a human being. I heard this a couple of years ago and I thought, yeah, no, that's me. And as someone who is always has that Achilles heel of perfectionism and people pleasing and performance, this is the place that I need to be aware of, that God continually has to kind of tap my shoulder about that. Am I doing these things in my life as a doing? Do I feel like I have to check the box and get on to the next thing? Or am I really experiencing and enjoying what he has for me right now and what he's calling me to? You know, this is not just a call for us to feel good. This is not just us about maybe my life is stressed and I want to relieve some of that stress. I mean, that's an important part of it, but it really is about calling because we can get so stuck in doing and doing and doing and not realize that God may have shifted a little bit about what he's calling us to step into. And if we're not aware of what that is, or maybe we need to take a season to rediscover that, then we're wasting our time. And as Christians, we cannot waste our time. We are called to be on this earth with a purpose and with intention. And so it's so important that we pay attention to these things for our own mental health, but for the sake of the world around us. All right. So this idea of burnout, we've talked about it in previous episodes. I'm going to link to some of those here so that you can check those out if this is something you're struggling with. But I just want to mention that if you feel like you're stuck in this place, it's common, it's very normal. It takes a toll on our well-being. There's so much evidence about how it affects our ongoing health. The idea of the cortisol level, which is a stress hormone, the idea of that being continually pumping through our veins and keeping us amped up and in this fight or flight survival mode, it's very, very dangerous. That's not how our veins were designed to exist. And I'm a walking miracle and testament to this truth because that is one of the big causes of what ended up being a almost death experience for me in 2017. Again, I can link to that episode that shares more about that. But I just want to say, first of all, that if you're feeling these things, it's okay, it's normal, and that this is the time of year that it's really great to take stock of where you're at and to get some honest replenishment. So for me, I noticed myself slipping into this about 6 weeks ago. I just felt like I couldn't push anymore. I mean, that's a personal sign for me. I know that I'm reaching overwhelm and burnout because I am someone who is pretty self motivated and not afraid of hard work. And when I got to this point where I was just like, I don't even care. I don't even want to show up and do this. Like, what's the point? It was like, whoa, red flag, what's going on? You know? And I could keep going and just kind of putting on the mask and faking it, but I realized, and that God has done enough changing in me over the years for me to recognize that I can't live like that anymore. I can't live falsely and pushing, even though I know that there's something going on. And so I just started taking some time to begin to say, okay, what is causing this? And yes, there's been a lot that's happened. There was a lot that has happened just even in the last 3 to 4 months for me. And I need to recognize that when I am putting things out, there has to be a filling back up. And yes, I have had times of rest and replenishment that I've, built in throughout my days, but that there are seasons when we need more intense versions of that. And I was in a season where my body, my mind, everything was telling me, you need to honor this and you need to pay attention to it. And so that kind of thing, of course, is difficult. It's challenging because there are things we're doing. There are people who we're responsible to. There are things we've signed up for, so to speak, to complete. So there was, as I was telling my Bible study prayer partners, I was telling them, this is what I need to do. I need to take this break from some of the things on the podcast, some of the things with my work with women, some of the things in my own life, just as a person and as a mom and all these things. I need to slow down and really simplify some things and really just take some breaks, take a break. And yet, of course, we can't cancel everything. And we've made commitments to certain things and we want to finish those out. And so I had said to them, here's where I'm going. Here's where I feel God leading me, but pray for the strength for me for the next probably 5 to 6 weeks at that point, because I was like, I know that I need to finish some commitments that have kind of painted myself into a corner too. Like I can't walk away from these things and I need to be a woman of my word. So help me to have that strength, God. I'm praying for strength and God was faithful to get me through that. But at the end of it, of course, there's that little feeling of like, well, do I need to stop? It's like God's like, yes. And I needed to obey that. So I have had this time. I cleared some things in my schedule. And just a word on that. When you begin to recognize that you are not a human doing, but you're a human being, and you have to say no in some areas, not everyone's going to like that. Not everyone's going to like that. And I didn't see any necessarily outward verbal speaking about that, but I could sense in my spirit, and it was something that I had to work through, that there were people who were disappointed in me because of some decisions I made. There were people who wanted me to do something or had expected me to do something, and they didn't like that I was making this choice. And so this is kind of part of this process of what God has been revealing since I've had this time is there are some broken things inside of me that he's still working on, like he is with all of us, kind of taking me to that next 2.0 or 3.0 level in some of the areas he's been talking to me about for years, which is exciting and good. And one of those, which I will talk about in a future episode, is this idea of needing to make everybody happy with my decisions. And so this was the first test of that. Like, are you going to make this decision, even if people are going to be disappointed with you? And I had to make that decision. So I've had these active times where I have just set aside time for me to be with God. One of those is Thursday mornings. So I had previously another commitment on Thursday mornings, which was a great commitment, but it was one of those things where I felt God saying, if you show up in a leadership position in this commitment and you continue to do that, it's not helpful. Like you're so exhausted and burnt out in these areas as a human doing that I'm not going to be able to use you in the way that I want to use you. And so I need you to step down. This is not helpful anymore. And so that time I have replaced with just different things throughout the weeks, but I've always tried to dedicate that time to spending it with God in some capacity. One week I went to a local park here and just brought my journal and took my phone and just I've been in love. I don't know if you guys have figured this out. You probably have. Have you ever used the voice to talk text option on anything you use, like the notes app or your texting app? Like, it's been life changing. I figured this out like 2 or 3 months ago, and I'm like, whoa, can't even believe how much more time I see because I'm somebody who has a lot of words, as you can probably tell. And so it's been so helpful for me as God's been digging through some of these things of why I've been exhausted and He's been repairing me and healing me in all these areas. It's been so helpful to just have a journal because I do write a ton, physically writing, but also just to have my phone there open with my notes app. I use Evernote. And so just speaking all this out, and it's been so helpful. So anyway, I'm just saying that, you know, you and I have to be intentional. We have to choose to notice these things in ourselves, kind of like we said at the beginning. This is a skill that we have never been taught, had to be taught before, I guess. But in this culture where we're just kind of responding to all the things, we have to take a stand and we have to be bold about that sometimes to say, this is not how God has called me to live. And I'm not going to keep living this way anymore. That my mental health is important, that how I show up is important. God wants me to have more of a life than just doing. He wants me to have a life of being in Him. One of my favorite scriptures on this is a common one that you've probably heard before, but when you really meditate on it and begin to welcome it into your life, it brings such clarity. It's Psalm 46:10. It says, "Be still and know that I am God." How many times has God changed the direction of your life or worked things out in just this incredible way where you think, oh my gosh, how did that work out that way? I couldn't have even planned it to work out that way. That is the power of our God. And when we are in a human doing mode, we just want to keep doing. We're like these, like, a toy car that's been wound up and it's just continue in the same direction until somebody comes and picks up the car and puts it in a different direction. There are times, friend, when you and I, more than often than we think, just need to stop and to be still. That we find ourselves way more important and our actions way more important than they probably need to be. Sitting at the feet of Jesus is an active part of our life. It is not a passive part. This idea of being still and waiting, this is an active part of being a Christian, and it is a necessary part, especially if we are in a season where we're stuck in the doing cycle and we're stuck in the on button, so to speak. Just doing this has really recentered me on truth. It has really allowed me to, again, like God has been revealing some deep things that I was like, whoa, that needs to be dealt with. God help me deal with that. And He's just recentering me and revitalizing this creative spirit that is in me because that spark of creativity was starting to just kind of fizzle out because I was so exhausted. So I just want to, again, extol the benefits of this, especially in summer, because things do tend to slow down a little bit. The kids are out of school. We can have more time, but we always, always, always need to be careful that as we have this more time, we're being intentional with how we're spending that time. Are we spending that time just kind of lounging around and watching Netflix all day and looking at our phone? Some of us are working and that's never going to change. I mean, I get that. Some of you are like, hi, I still work. It doesn't change in the summer. No, I get that. I totally do. I still work in the summer, but I know that there's just this overall pace maybe that a lot of us pick up that, we're going to slow down a little bit. We're going to spend more time with family. Maybe we go on vacations. And it's important to say part of that time is about spending time with God and replenishing our soul and sitting at His feet, being still before Him and letting Him fill us back up. I have in this process have also learned a ton about abundance and the idea of what it means to live in abundance with God, especially in the concept of abundance within boundaries. Are you feeling exhausted and you need to rediscover hope after a tough season? I get it. And listen, I want to help you create a plan to be more energized and joyful in the coming year. Join me for my goal planning workshop. In 1.5 hours, we'll not only help you make a specific plan for change, but we'll celebrate your wins and we'll help you discover a fresh vision for your life. The workshop includes a guided teaching experience with me, a retreat notebook with powerful scriptures, insightful exercises and meaningful prayers, plus other fun surprises to make the experience joyful and life-giving. Best of all, it's an on-demand workshop, meaning that you can attend whenever you want, and you can go through the workshop year after year, anytime you need to set goals and get new perspective. I can't wait to help you find clarity, renewal, and a new passion to love God and enjoy your life. Join me now for the goal-setting workshop at vibrantchristianliving.com/goal. That's vibrantchristianliving.com/GOAL. I'll see you there. So there was a great episode, a couple of episodes before this one, from Sarah Haggerty and her book, The Gift of Limitation. If you have not bought that book, friend, you need to go out and buy it right now. It is an incredible book. Sarah is someone who I have long admired as a writer. Her writing is like poetry. That's the only way I can describe it. And she is able to just express these things that it's like we feel in our hearts that I didn't quite know I was feeling. But when she says it, I was like, that's exactly it. That is exactly it. And her latest book has not disappointed. And just as an aside, I have gotten to know Sarah through this whole interview, like meeting her on the podcast, and we've had other conversations, and she's an incredible person. So go and check out that book, The Gift of Limitations by Sarah Haggerty. But in that book and in our conversation, she talks about how we are given these limitations in life, and burnout and overwhelm can definitely be a limitation where God's going, okay, we need to stop, we need to slow down. And we can think of that as this hard, difficult thing that we don't want to step into. But if we learn to find the abundance, if we accept what's there, right? We accept that this is the boundary, this is the thing that needs to happen, and we learn to find the abundance within the boundaries. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We think of abundance as this idea of like, okay, God's going to bless me abundantly. Like maybe he'll give me like an upgrade at a hotel, or maybe, hey, I'll get someone in front of me will pay for my drink, at Starbucks or something. Like we think of it as these monetary, like little gifts. But when we begin to see the true expression of God's abundance, it is life changing. That it's not necessarily those things, like those things can be part of it, but that his abundance, it is all around us. Here, let me share this journaling entry that I did the other day about, it was just a prayer back to God around this topic of abundance. Here is that journal entry that I did on abundance. Thank you for showing me today that abundance inside the boundary lines doesn't have to look like abundance in the way that I see it. In this season of replenishment, you are my abundance, God. You are showing up and directing me. And wow, it is so beautiful to experience. I am so grateful to show up each day for my life and know that you abundantly blessed me, that you're overflowing my cup. I know that abundance is present even if I am not accomplishing or doing things. Even if I don't see abundance, it is present. Your abundance that you give to me is based solely on my pre-established worth in Christ. I don't have to strive for abundance. I don't have to try to seek it. I just need to be still and to receive it. It is a bigger and better version of abundance than the silly, pithy abundance ways that I look for it. It is a mystery. It is a daily unraveling and a surprise that I get to discover with you each day, God. Seeing your tiny, miraculous gifts of abundance has brought new life and strength to my soul as I trust and receive this daily manna. So as you slow down, this idea of seeing God everywhere, it begins to pop up in all of these great ways. We're going to dig more into all of those different aspects in some future episodes here in this little mini series that we're doing. But just again, to give you a taste and to give you a desire to notice that what you're doing, if you are a human doing versus a human being, to say, friend, come on over to the other side. There is so much more here that needs to be explored in this Christian life, and that you and I have the responsibility to decide that we're going to be different. We have to decide to maybe put some boundaries in our life or to put some limitations on things, and to take these times to take down and put down and let God fill. As an aside here, when we're talking about replenishment, we do need to have that time with the Lord, but it's also important to consider how we are taking care of ourselves in other ways. Are we using our bodies to the fullest capacity possible by feeding it what it needs, by exercising, by mentally stimulating our brain, things like that? And so even before I began this little kind of downtime that I'm taking right now to be with God and to get this replenishment and just have him switch my brain, I committed to something with my husband called 75 Hard. And 75 Hard is a program that is perpetuated by a certain internet person. And I'm not going to get into all that, but it's a program. Actually, my husband has done it several times before, and I've never done it with him. But he and I decided just to do it as a commitment to ourselves, that as part of this commitment for 75 days, you decide to do certain things every day. So you decide that you will follow a diet, like some sort of eating regimen that doesn't include sugar and alcohol. We choose to follow paleo. You decide to work out twice a day. One of those workouts has to be an outdoor workout. You read 10 pages of a nonfiction book every day. You drink a gallon of water every day, and you take a picture of yourself every day, and you can track all this in an app. So I decided as I was starting this process, it was kind of around the same time that God was saying, like, this whole abundance idea and this whole like needing to get replenishment. This is part of what we're doing with 75 Hard. This is how it's all going to work together. And I think that part of this replenishment that God has given me has been expedited because I have been able to invest in my body and taking care of it to the fullest extent. I think that's a big part of it. So just to say that, we don't have to change everything when we're having these seasons of letting God replenish us. But if there is something in your life that you're like, oh, I just know, like if I slept more, or if I took this out of my diet, or if I added this into my lifestyle, like a certain exercise, that it would really help me. Maybe that's something to consider as part of this. It doesn't have to be. I mean, the number one thing is to just get alone with the Lord and let him speak to you and have space in your life to see him again. But this could be another part of that as well. And then also another thing that can be helpful as part of this replenishment is to not just have a season of where you're having these individual times with God fitting into your regular life. Is there a way that you can really break away from everyday life and take an extended vacation, really put down the to-do list, really just let God speak, and I'm not talking about a Disney World vacation, and there's nothing wrong with Disney World, but I'm not talking about a vacation where you are the mom, you're planning everything, you're in charge, you're doing this. That's just more doing in a different location. I'm talking about a vacation where you can put away everything. Maybe you don't have your phone turned on except for like at night when you're responding to messages back home or something. You are able to just check out and hear from the Lord. Let me tell you, that's what I'm doing in a couple of weeks. I had this planned with a friend of mine. We've been planning it for over a year. It is a trip that we're taking to Italy. Now, some of you have heard me talk about Italy before. I took a trip to Italy last fall as part of an art retreat, and that was incredible. And I'm doing my own retreat to Italy for Christian women next fall, September 2025. So if you want to hear more about that, go to vibrantchristianliving.com/Italy to learn more about how you can join me in Italy. But this summer, a friend of mine and I had planned to go to Italy, to a different part of Italy. We're going to Lake Como, and to go to Germany and Austria and a couple other places. And we were just talking about doing this as a way to get this replenishment. And I've just seen how God has orchestrated the timing of everything that's happening with this whole in my life, with the book launch, with everything happening by giving me this time to be more down, right? Having more space to hear from him, and the culmination of that with the 75 Hard and this trip now that I'll be taking towards the end of June. So I am so excited because God has just worked all this out, that in this time that I'm taking, that it's going to culminate in this full, incredible experience of me just being able to put down everything. I will have practiced it for several months beforehand through just still living my life and doing the things I need to do. But he is so gracious to give us these moments to be able to put everything down and to just enjoy his creation, enjoy our family, enjoy our friends together. Now, I know some of you are like, wow, must be nice. You get to go to Italy again. So please hear me that if you're like, I just can't afford to do something like that right now. I'm not saying that. You can go and take an extended weekend at a local, I don't even know what's nearby you, somewhere in the mountains or somewhere at the beach, or just out at a friend's house. You know the kinds of things that will work for your budget, for your time, for your schedule, for your lifestyle. You know that.
And I think a lot of times we make excuses where we're like, yeah, I just can't, or that won't happen. How could you creatively think about an extended rest period that you could have over the summer to help your mind and to help the Lord speak to you in this way? Just putting it out there. Ask the Lord for information and encouragement in this and just be open. You never know what he might offer and what he might put before you. All right. So, calls to action moving forward from here. I would encourage you to do a couple of different things. I would, again, get alone with the Lord and just ask Him, am I stuck in this doing or being cycle? And ask for His help and what that could look like to move forward. If you need some resources to help you in that process, I have two of them that would be a great fit for this. The first one is my goal setting workshop. And this is a resource that I offer all year long. And it's something that you can do over and over. In fact, it's something I do at least twice a year as a way to check in on where we've been, where we are now, and where we're going. And it is an hour and a half long pre recorded workshop. There is a great worksheet that you will fill out as part of it. And as at the end of this workshop, you walk away with a chance to have celebrated the difficulties, the victories, and the dreams of everything in your life right now. And as part of that, you also have an opportunity to determine what is the one thing that if I was to move forward in this would help me in this season. And so that's a great little workshop. You can go find that at the main website. It's vibrantchristianliving.com. I believe there's a tab on the menu called resources or something like that. And you can click on that and you can find that goal setting workshop there. And then the other thing is, you may hear this and think, I wanna stop. I really wanna stop, but I don't even know how that works, and that's where I was in 2017, like, I was doing all the hacks, like, maybe I just need to hack my way out of this and feeling so tired, and God had to put me flat on my back for 9 months and almost take my life for me to realize the importance of hacks not being the fit here, that I had deeper issues underneath, and so that's my encouragement. If you feel like this is another little, like, warning sign, little beep, 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 beep inside from the Lord that's like, it's time. It's time, my daughter, for you to address the underlying issues that are keeping you stuck in the opposition, the things that are keeping you as a human doing and not a human being. And that can be everything from feeling like you have these patterns inside of you where if I don't show up, what will people think of me? If I disappoint people in this way, how will they respond? What will I think of myself? Who am I if I am not doing? Who am I? And what if I stop and I don't ever pick it back up again? Or I don't even know how to rest because we're so lost in these dialogues. So the Christian Mindset Makeover is an excellent way to figure out what are those things, those soundtracks inside of you, inside of your mind that are programmed in a subconscious part of your mind that are running the show. Things like, you're supposed to rest. God loves you. He's got good plans for you. But it's like, so why can't I stop running? So why do I always believe that he loves me? Why do I struggle with that? So why am I so afraid of everything in my life? Why am I afraid? We have to understand where those came from, what we need to get healing. And then I use a specific tool called brain priming, which is a brain science tool. It's a proven tool used by brain scientists for dozens. And I mean, it's probably been about 30, 40 years now that the brain priming has been around. And we use that once we've kind of figured out what's going on in there, we use that to change the neural patterns in the subconscious mind to align in these areas around identity, to align with what God says about you and your words. So we're using the brain science and the Bible together to get this healing. It is fantastic. And if you haven't ever checked out the Mindset Makeover, maybe this is the time of year. Summer is a great time to be able to invest in yourself and these kinds of things. So check out the Mindset Makeover. It's vibrantchristianliving.com/mindset makeover. And it's a great resource. It's a great resource. It's a 9-part course. There is work that you do by yourself, and then you can check in with me on these live calls we do twice a month. And it's fantastic. We've had hundreds of women go through it and had incredible transformation. So I hope you will check it out. All right, we're going to continue more about this conversation, asking some other really good questions to help us move through this process once we're like, okay, I've figured out that I am a human doing and not a human being. We're going to keep these conversations going over the next few weeks. So I look forward to that. conversation with you as it evolves over the next few episodes. But if this episode was helpful to you and you know someone else who would really benefit from it, would you share it on social media? Would you just like it if you're on YouTube and you're watching this, or if you are hearing about it on Instagram, if you would like it and share it, or if the very least, even if you haven't done this yet, if you would subscribe to the podcast and also give us a 5-star rating and review. That is so helpful to let other people know about the words that we're sharing here, and it helps the algorithm show it to more people. So thanks for your help in sharing it with a friend and letting others know about the podcast. All right, take care. I'll see you back here next week for our episode. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining me today for the Christian Mindset Coach. If you love today's show, you've got to check out my free mindset workshop. In this free training, I share about the secret weapon for rewiring our brain to align with God's truth, the proven brain science tool that pro athletes and high achievers have used for decades. I've personally helped hundreds of Christian women use this tool to find healing from a lifetime of worry, shame, and striving. And I'd love to help you use this tool in your life as well. Sign up now for this free training at vibrantchristianliving.com/mind. I'll see you back here next week.